All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets in NBA today, as well as touching on some NHL and college basketball. But first, as always, let's go ahead and get into a recap of yesterday. And so looking at the recap of yesterday, had 2 4 for 6 slips and then 2 5 for 6 slips. It really depends on which information you guys took. Either way, Bryce Young sold. Very unfortunate. I had 7 5 out of 6 slips yesterday, and I think I had like 10 total. So that was very brutal. Annoyed in that sense, but hey, can't really complain about a good day. I already got a lot of messages from people saying that they had some 6 for 6 slips, 5 for 5 slips. So I'd love to see that. Good day yesterday. And we knew with Bryce Young, there was very much a touchdown dependent prop. He didn't get a touchdown. The basketball props, though, those hit pretty easily, guys. Literally at halftime, these both had hit. So pretty sweat free there, and to me it I don't want to say it ruined my cheering night, but I like to scan the scores and stuff throughout the night, and at halftime they already cashed. I'm like, well, my night's done early, so it was kind of bittersweet in that sense, but can't complain about a good day. Let's go ahead and move on in today. And so as always, I do like to start out with the ODDSJAM Sportsbook view. Just a reminder, if you guys want access to the screen or kind of any of their other tools, use the promo code 9to5. The link to join is in the description below. That'll give you guys 20% off. I think this is a great starting point for the day to really properly gauge which games we should be targeting and maybe which games we should be staying away from, just in terms of likelihood for a prop to hit or maybe stackability. Looking at it right now, we do have 9 games on this NBA slate. We got the Charlotte Hornets versus the Washington Wizards, 2 teams that I think in terms of stacking games, we're going to be targeting those 2 a bunch. So the 240 over and under, I love to see in this game. 3-point spread. Now we pull up the injury report. We do have Gordon Hayward currently a game time decision, and we also have Terry Rozier out. Now, if Gordon Hayward were to sit, and he's currently expected to play, but if he were to sit, that would most likely create a lot of value for us on the slate. And I do want to call it this one for PJ Washington. This should be a good one. I know he sold us on the last slip, but this is seemingly going to be a good one, and it would only benefit if Gordon Hayward was out. If you guys remember on yesterday's video, I kind of mentioned that I thought there was a good chance that like Damian Lillard or Giannis would sit in that game. It ended up being Damian Lillard, and Giannis was someone that I was already kind of high on. I wanted to wait for the fantasy score prop. Hopefully that was something that you guys jumped on as well. I said he'd be motivated to play well. He did. But the point here is that if Gordon Hayward were to sit, PJ Washington's prop lines would most likely go up. And so we are already seeing that this is going to be a good prop, but it could be an edge for us to gain on this slate. And so let's just take a peek at PJ Washington as a play today, like DFS wise and whatnot. Now, the matchup against Washington on paper is not as good, but I don't believe that. Looking at him last game, he struggled to shoot the basketball. I think it was 0 for 5 to start the game from 3-ball range, and then I think it was like 1 for 8. He continues to shoot the ball poorly. That is a concern, don't get me wrong. But he managed to still have a good, productive game. And the expectation, again, is that with Rozier off the court there, we should be expecting PJ Washington to continue to see a high usage rate, which we have seen thus far this season, guys. It goes LaMelo Ball, 33% usage rate with Terry Rozier off the court. PJ Washington, 23% usage rate. And then Gordon Hayward is 26 as well. So his is pretty high. But PJ Washington gets a 6.4 bump in usage. And so he averages, and this is per 36, and I think we can project him to get 36 minutes, 20 points, 5.9 rebounds, so already at this over there, right? And then 1.6 assists. So not too many assists, but still a decent amount there, and averages about 16.3 shot attempts this season. Now, if we go back to last season, does average a little bit more shot attempts. All in all, though, we can see the consistency there. I like to see this, guys. And sure, he did struggle against Washington last game. I doubt that was anything that they were doing. I think he just continued to shoot the ball poorly. And what's weird is that you look at the game log here, it's been matchups that he should do well against, that he struggled in, and then it's matchups that he probably shouldn't do as well, and he's done well in. But we know he's locked into his minutes. We know he's pretty much locked into his shot attempts, and if he's shooting the basketball well, we can project him to probably get 15 shot attempts or so. The thing with it is as well, PJ Washington shooting the ball poorly like he did actually led to LaMelo Ball not having as many assists. So he only had 7 assists in that game. That was a prop bet that was popping up earlier today. Now it has since been bumped up to 10. So probably a stay away. We look at LaMelo Ball's points, rebounds, and assist prop at 43.5. We saw he went off in the last game. To me, he'd be a much better fantasy score prop guy. He averages about 26 points per 36 with Rozier out the court, 6.4 rebounds, 10 assists. So already right there, he's basically at 40. And then granted, given the matchup, you think we do a little bit better. But 1.6 steals, that's kind of the key. And he averages 21 shot attempts. And so now on this slate, that probably feels a little bit too thin. You know, Gordon Hayward at his rebounds and assists, that could be something that we could get to. But all in all, I feel like PJ Washington's the prop bet. I feel pretty good about that one, and hopefully that one doesn't get bumped up throughout the day. Let's go ahead and switch up and get into the Washington team. So looking at Washington, we are getting Jordan Poole props, and Kyle Kuzma has some good ones, as well as Denny. So we are seeing some projected edges here. Let's take a peek at Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole has really been terrible. I don't think anyone would deny that. 20 minutes in the last game because he was terrible, I believe. I don't think he got injured, and so it's tough to trust this. At the same time, I don't know. Like, he's just not shooting the basketball well. He's not playing good team basketball. We can't rely on him to be on the court. Let's see how many minutes he's projected to get. I mean, I would agree over 3.5 assists should be the move. He is projected to get 30 minutes. And so if he does that, you would expect him to get the over. I mean, obviously a good EV bet there. We look at Kyle Kuzma for over rebounds as well, 6.5. That's definitely an interesting one there. And so we look at the last game. We remember Daniel Gafford was a very good under fantasy score prop at his line, and that's due to him, getting into foul trouble. And he really didn't play that many minutes in that game, which was a little bit strange to me. And he basically played all his minutes in the first half, was productive as well, but he does get into foul trouble. And so if that continues, we could see Kyle Kuzma really operating as the center a little bit more. Like, if Gafford's not going to be getting minutes, I think Kuzma is a good candidate to get those minutes at the center position. And so, yeah, I don't mind his over rebounds at that current line that we are getting for him. And maybe just a slight, tiny game stack. Honestly, Kuzma and Washington for their props. So now we go ahead and move on into the next game. We got the Sixers versus the Pistons, a game that does have blowout potential at 9.5 points. 224 for the over and under, so not exactly an appealing game either. We look at the Pistons injury report. They are pretty banged up. Okay, so Burks is out, Ivy's out. And so that has really led to two players guard-wise getting more minutes, and that has been Marcus Sasser, who pretty productive thus far this season as a whole. And I don't know if the lines are going to be adjusting for him enough, like over 10 shot attempts thus far through the last 4 games when we started to see those injuries pop up, especially with Burks, and now with Ivy off the court, that has led to more shot attempts for him. And then also Killian Hayes, he's a little bit hit or miss, but he's been more productive as well over the last 2 games with Burks and Ivy off, which is kind of shocking. We haven't really seen him step up into that much of a bigger role in years past or in past situations like this. But I am curious if we are getting any good props for them, because those could be 2 players we're looking at. And so, yeah, Cade Cunningham has been playing well. Isaiah Stewart at 7.5 rebounds and assists. That's probably the correct line there, guys. But Stewart is someone that has been playing heavy minutes in games that are staying close, and really just all the games as well. So there should be kind of a higher floor to this. At the same time, it is a matchup with Philly, typically not a matchup we want to be targeting. But at that same time as well, Jalen Duren could get into foul trouble, so that might shift Isaiah Stewart from the power forward role into more of the center role. Jalen Duren, he is someone that can get into foul trouble as well, as long as the minutes are there. And so that is a little bit of a concern. That's kind of the bet there, is that Duren probably gets his unders because he gets into foul trouble. So thus, someone like Isaiah Stewart would get his overs. The issue with Stewart is that Thompson has just been playing extremely well lately. And so it's tough to really trust anyone here. The best one that we are getting is Killian Hayes for over points, rebounds, and assists, I think, at 19.5. I am curious, are we getting one for Marcus Sasser? We are not. So yeah, let's just take a peek at this one for Killian Hayes. And so you guys know by now, I'm pretty much someone that makes a lot of decisions, most of my decisions based off of data. And for some reason, whenever Killian Hayes is someone that has really popped up in past slates, this is really dating back to last year, he's been someone that has burned me. So there is a little scar tissue there. Looking at it though, thus far this season, he has 207 minutes with Burks and Ivy off the court. So he is getting those minutes. And so the projected minutes here at 28 could potentially be too low, because we've seen 29, 34, 34, 39. So that could potentially be too low. Now, I don't know why he only had 29 minutes in that game against Milwaukee. Kind of strange. Maybe it's more of a matchup thing. But you look at his per 36 production, 13.2 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 5.6 assists. So combining rebounds and assists, about 9. And then combine the points, 19, I guess. So this is probably correct for him. And that's assuming that he gets his per 36 production. That's assuming that he gets those many minutes. And so maybe the better one would be points. Again, though, that's not exactly one that's popping up. So let's see if we're getting any other good ones for Hayes. Rebounds and assists, maybe. Assists, probably a little bit too thin. I guess we're just probably staying away from this, unfortunately. Now, he has been averaging 1.4 steals and 0.7 blocks. So maybe someone we'd look at once the fantasy score comes out. Maybe that's an option there. So we look at the Phillies side of the basketball, and I'm very curious as to where their fantasy score props are going to come out to be, because I had mentioned I thought Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey, their lines have been super strange thus far this season, and that really doesn't seem to have changed too much this week or in this game. You look at the matchup with Detroit, once again, going back to last year with James Harden off the court, he averaged basically 30 points per 36 and a bunch more rebounds. I'd have to pull it up. I don't really care for that. The point is, on average, he has been crushing that this year and last year using the same data. So I don't really get why the line hasn't caught up to this. This is seemingly an easy matchup against Detroit as well. My concern would be that this game blows out. And yes, the game blowing out would mean that someone like Joel Embiid probably gets his close to it, his over, maybe Tobias Harris. But at the same time, the minutes are being capped, so there's a little bit less of a safety blanket. And yes, so like Tobias Harris has been crushing as well. And given the fact that Detroit runs out a bunch of bigs, like you know that, I mean, minutes aren't a concern for Tobias Harris, but you know that he's going to get his minutes. Seemingly a more difficult matchup though against Detroit with their two bigs. Maybe he's someone we're looking at for fantasy score, but he's been playing much better as of recent as well. Very consistent as a shooter as well. I just don't get those two lines. And that's something where I basically bet on both of those two in some capacity on every slate, and I'm probably going to continue to do that. Again, I think they'll probably be better fantasy score props once those come out. And then other ones that we're seeing, are there any good ones? Embiid for under 3.5 turnovers, and we see the projection data likes it at 2.5, so a seemingly good one there. Melton, points and assists, that's not terrible, but probably a little bit too thin. Let's go ahead and move on into the next game. So the next game that we have here is the Nets versus Celtics. The Celtics are going to be 11-point favorites, a very high number there. That's a game that I'm probably staying away from. We look at the injury report. Brooklyn is going to be without Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, and Nick Claxton. That is pretty crazy. We do know that the Celtics are going to be without Al Horford. That's about 20 minutes that is going to be available for a backup. But I think we just see them shift Tatum to the power forward spot like most nights. And so maybe the Stars honestly just get some extra run in that game. And so just as an FYI, we're not getting any Brooklyn props just yet, but I do want to touch on that. Last game, we did see like what this team kind of looked like with with Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton off the court. Mikal Bridges should probably get a lot of shot attempts in this game. But I do think it's worth noting that Cam Johnson is expected back. And so that definitely puts a slight wrinkle into our expectations for this. When we look at kind of the per 36 production with those players off the court, it's an extremely small sample size. It really is. Like Mikal Bridges only averages 11.6 points per 36, 4.9 rebounds, and 4.9 in assists, but it's such a small sample size, I don't even think it's worthwhile to mention that. So to me, I kind of agree with us not getting any prop bets for them. The player that probably gets the biggest bump is Finney Smith, who has been shooting the basketball way more than you would expect him to. And so his points prop has been at 10.5 for a lot of games. And so he's someone I do think we could potentially be looking at, because I do think his minutes will be secured. Now, Cam Johnson's probably going to play, and we got to see if he's going to be limited or not. He played 26 minutes in the previous game, so I don't think he will be. He's someone that should step up into a pretty decent role here. So maybe someone that we're looking at there. And so with that, let's just move on into Boston. We'll see if we're getting any good props for them. And we kind of are. We're seeing Porzingis for actually under 1.5 turnovers. Same thing with Jaylen Brown, given the fact that they have an easy matchup. I think we could kind of see that happening. Like maybe they don't get as many minutes as they typically would. That's certainly in the realm of possibility. Like if this game is going to be a blowout like they're projecting, then none of them should get like 36 minutes like they had been. Derek White at 3.5 rebounds is a little bit intriguing to me. We look at kind of the minutes with Al Horford off the court. It really is just the starters getting more run. And Derek White is someone that averages 6 rebounds per 36. And he is someone that, yes, we worry about the blowout concern, and I think that's why we're getting such a low line for him, but he's been pretty consistent in terms of getting that over, or at least close to it. 3, 8, 4, 5. And so the only one game that he didn't get there was like New York, or get close to it. So seemingly a decent one. But yeah, what did we see there? We see that when games are blowouts, Derek White's minutes are kind of limited. We look at Porzingis, 27, 24. So, a slight concern there for kind of all of them. So to me, I just want to stay away from this game. Now, yes, you could do the under turnovers. I actually don't mind that. Both of them should be decent if they're not getting that many minutes. Now, obviously, I would say if the game does stay close, it'd probably be because they are having turnovers as well. But yeah, that feels a little bit too thin right now. now let's move on to the next game. We got the Pelicans versus the Rockets, a very low scoring game at 218.5. 3-point spread though, so a close game. Let's take a peek at the injury report here. And so right now, Sengun is currently a game time decision. If he were to sit, that's going to create a lot of usage. Jabari Smith would be someone that would become an intriguing kind of option because he'd be playing a little bit more. Looking at this, guys, a lot of game time decisions for the Pelicans. I'm sure we're not getting any props for them. We did see Brandon Ingram be a good prop bet for us on the previous slate because he was being a little bit valued for his points. But then once the news hit that Zion and also CJ McCollum were out, his points really skyrocketed, and then he was a little bit overvalued there. So very strange there. To me, this almost seems like a situation we want to stay away from. I do want to look at the projected starting lineup though for the Rockets. So yeah, everyone is truly like a game time decision. So that is definitely a concern there as well. And so yes, as we would expect, we're not getting props for that game. Let's just take a peek real quick at who benefits the most though with Sengun off the court, just so we can be prepared when or if that news comes, where to go. So looking at it right now, it's a very small sample size. It's actually Tate gets the most minutes with them off the court, which suggests that they probably shift up to Jabari Smith, but this is a small sample size, just as an FYI. And then Jock Landale, the backup center, does get some minutes there as well. It'd be tough to see him getting like 25 minutes though, and I think it'd just be probably Jabari Smith maybe playing more of the center then. It is worth noting that they have Terry Eason back as well. He played in his first game back. I don't know if he was limited at all. I would kind of think Jabari Smith would shift to the center for most of the game, and Terry Eason would then be the power forward in that game. Looking at Jabari Smith's production with Sengun off the court, averages 12.2 points, so actually a little bit worse, 5 rebounds, a little bit worse, and 2.2 steals, a little bit worse. But if you look at his blocks and steals, averages 1 steal and 1.7 blocks. So that does go up. And to me, guys, probably just too small of a sample size. Like, we would have to look at the matchups and whatnot. Like, there's only 65 minutes going into this. That could just be a case of having poor matchups with Sengun off the court. I do think he'd probably be one that we're looking at. And then for the Pelicans, it is too tough to say based off of this news right now. I don't think I want to touch that. It is worth noting that we can probably bank on both Dyson Daniels and also Jordan Hawkins getting a bunch of minutes. Jordan Hawkins is someone that strangely didn't shoot the basketball last game too much. And I didn't really see why. It was very strange that he didn't shoot the basketball more. Now, Dyson Daniels shot the ball 10 times, was terrible. Matt Ryan, more of a 3-ball threat, 2 for 4. Didn't really shoot the basketball well. The game was kind of ugly. And you did have Brandon Ingram shooting the basketball 25 times. So, yeah, if he's going to be shooting the basketball 25 times, 22 times as well, like if we get news that Zion's out or even McCollum's out, I think he's someone we're looking at. And, 2 kind of poor night shooting in a row. You expect him to have a better night shooting, just like with Trae Young last night. And so now we move on to the next game. We got the Jazz versus the Grizzlies at 230 over and under, or 229.5, 4.5 point spread there as well. So looking at the Grizzlies, we do have a lot of question marks here. Zaire Williams is someone that's been gaining a lot of minutes. He is currently a game time decision. Xavier Tillman is out. John Concher, currently a game time decision. Then Derrick Rose is out as well. To me, this screams that like someone like Luke Kennard is probably going to be getting minutes, especially if Zaire's out. And then looking at Utah, Walker Kessler is out. Now, we are getting some Utah props. Let's take a peek at those, and we are getting some Memphis props. So, yes, very good. So, looking at these two situations, we do see that Jordan Clarkson projected as a decent overbet for his rebounds at 3.5. Now, he is someone where he really does depend on the minutes, 29 minutes and then 34 minutes, and that kind of seemed like it depended on how well he was shooting the basketball. So, he shot the basketball well, but again, like, look at this. Like, I don't think his rebounds is secure. I probably just staying away from Clarkson. I do want to take a peek at the minutes in the last game with Walker Kessler off. John Collins only 27 minutes in that game. Kind of strange. Only 29 minutes. He hasn't been getting 30 minutes lately, but also the games that he's played in have kind of been a little bit of blowout. Kelly Olynyk probably going to get 20 minutes in this game. Probably not much there for him. And then Lauri Markkanen still not shooting the basketball as much, but he is pretty efficient shooting the basketball. It was actually Okachai, and I'm not going to butcher his last name, getting 26 minutes. And so it seems like they kind of shifted to just more of a smaller unit with Walker Kessler off the court. And we're not really getting any props that we'd probably want to be banking on in this game. We are seeing Jordan Clarkson for under points, rebounds, and assists coming in off of a poor night or after a good night. So it kind of regression probably comes back down. Lauri Markkanen, again, I don't really like any of these ones, to be honest with you. I would expect John Collins to have a better game as he gets more minutes in this game, but also feels a little bit too thin. So let's go ahead and move on to Memphis here. Looking at Memphis, a lot of the underbets. So we see Marcus Smart for under rebounds and assists. Let's take a peek as to why that one's popping up, because, looking at all those guys potentially being out, he probably would be in for a lot of minutes. We see pretty good rebounds and assists in that game. But then we look at against Utah in their first matchup, 8 there. And so maybe that's why this is being favored. Tough to say for sure. But let's take a peek real quickly at the expected starting lineup. So Zaire is expected to start. You got Biyombo expected to start at center. But with Concher maybe sitting as well, that's going to open up about 20 minutes or so. And so I kind of hope we get some props on Luke Kennard, who has been getting heavy minutes, if obviously Kennard or Concher is out, because he's been someone that like maybe 3-ball wise we could look at, maybe points wise we could look at, because he's a shooter, right? And if he gets minutes, he's going to shoot. It's pretty much as simple as that. Desmond Bane definitely playing better as of recent, but he also benefited from playing Portland twice. So you see that matchup against Miami did struggle a little bit because, well, it's Miami. And then Jaren Jackson Jr., you would expect him to play better in this matchup, but he did struggle in the first outing, 1 for 8, terrible night shooting. So again, like Memphis kind of feels a little bit too thin as well. And that's kind of what the data is telling us here as well. So again, let's move on into the next game. So the Timberwolves versus the Spurs, 6.4 for the spread, the over and under set at 225. I would think that the Minnesota Bigs should be able to feast. Now we aren't getting any injury news for this game, which is seemingly going to be a good thing in terms of predictability. That is something we should like. So let's go ahead and take a peek at Minnesota, seeing if we are getting any great prop bets here. And so Mike Conley for over rebounds and assists, we can see at 7.5, it has about a 53.4% chance to hit. The projection data actually likes that a little bit more at 8.7. And so that is something that I do think might have some legs. We look at Mike Conley, when games are close, he's been able to get minutes around 30 or so. And so if this game stays close enough for long enough, I do think that his rebounds and assist prop is probably a little bit too low at 7.5. Let's just look at the games where he got around 30 minutes. Only 5 in that game, 9 here, only 5, 9, and then 7. So seemingly kind of consistent there, but it's also the matchup with the Spurs is going to be the appealing part here. So not a terrible one there. Funny, Mike Conley under rebounds is one that's popping up at 2.5. So ugly there. I don't love that. And then strangely enough, the rest of the props here for Minnesota are not really great ones. I don't know. I would almost say maybe Mike Conley for over points from rebounds would be okay at 18.5. Like I just expect him to have a better game in this matchup against the Spurs. It's seemingly going to be an easy matchup, but yeah, these do feel maybe a little bit too thin. Karl Anthony Towns is someone I think the Timberwolves should have traded last season, and they probably need to get that done this season. And I was actually thinking, if you put like Kyle Kuzma on the Timberwolves, are they a better team? Like Cat for Kuzma straight up? Because obviously Gobert and Cat aren't really working together. So I don't know. That was just a thought I had. And so let's just take a peek now at the Spurs. Hopefully we're getting better ones for them. And so looking at it here, guys, Zach Collins for under assist at 3.5, that doesn't seem to be one I would want to target, just because Zach Collins is someone that can get things done in multiple ways on the court. Now we do worry about foul trouble. We do worry about the game blowing out as well. But if it doesn't, the minutes are going to be there. Like he has been someone that has gotten heavy minutes. Same thing with the rest of the Spurs starters. And so when the game stays close enough for long enough, we do see him consistently averaging over 3.5 assists on the season. He's averaging 4.1. Kind of a matchup with Rudy Gobert, you'd kind of expect him to have to, pass the ball a little bit more as well. I don't know. That to me is probably one I'm staying away from. So I probably disagree with that. I think that'd be a better bet on the sports books. And you're basically betting on the game staying close enough for long enough. And we also are seeing with Zach Collins points and assists being an okay over bet. Projection data doesn't really like it too much though. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of the prop bets that we'd probably want to be on in this game are a little bit too thin. Now, Keldon Johnson, I do just want to talk about him in general. In this game, he's projected to get 31 minutes. And it's crazy. Last season, if we would have got him at this line, like we would have just been going in on him. Okay. We know that the bigs in this game, Webby, and also Zach Collins are going to get difficult matchups. So that should mean Keldon Johnson should be able to have a better game. The issue that we've had with him is he's just not shooting the basketball that much. Now, he has been able to make up for that in other departments of his game, but given, the more difficult matchups that the bigs will have in this game for the Spurs, I do expect Keldon Johnson to shoot the basketball a little bit more in this one. We'll see. And his production has been so sporadic, but that's the thing. Like he could easily get there in points alone. You add on a couple rebounds, a couple assists. Like I don't mind that one. If we just look at this, like he's been averaging lower than I would think, I should say. 16 points, 10 rebounds and assists. It's basically right there, but that would just be more bet on him playing better than he has. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game again. Got about 3 more games. The Clippers versus the Mavericks, 235 for an over and under. So a seemingly good game and a 1 point spread, basically. We look at the injury report. Plumlee is still out for them, so Zubac is probably someone we're going to be looking at again, especially going against Dallas. And they have Derek Lively currently questionable as a game time decision. due to an illness. So if he sits, then yeah, that whole unit is going to be extremely thin for Dallas. And then they're probably running out like Dwight Powell to get some minutes. And yeah, that should bode well for Zubac. So Zubac, let's just talk about him. He was someone that I liked for over points, rebounds, and assists. And he barely got there in the last game. Kind of felt lucky. But yeah, this is a pretty good matchup. Like he had a good matchup against Brooklyn as well, going against them that, didn't have a big active in that game. And so if Zubac's going to be someone that gets us 30 minutes, that's highly appealing to me. And so yes, we don't have the best sample size for this team with James Harden there. But I would say with Plumlee off the court, we can get a pretty good indication of the minutes and production for Zubac. So I do think we can project Zubac to get 30 minutes. He is someone on the season with Plumlee off the court, averages 15.5 points and 11.6 rebounds, only 0.4 assists. It's funny, in the last game, guys, this was the difference. That was the difference in the prop hitting and not. And I say it's funny because his rebounds and points prop was exactly the same as his points, rebounds, and assist prop. That was such a sharp call. I don't think as many people appreciate that as much as they should have. Thank you, Zubac, for getting an assist there, buddy. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a peek at the Clippers props. And so yeah, right now we are seeing a lot of the unders probably be ones that we want to roll with because while James Harden soaking up a lot of usage kind of looks bad, honestly. But then we are seeing, maybe Westbrook under as well. It's just tough to say. To me, the big four that they have, just I'll feel like stayaways at this moment. But we are seeing, and I think this is a better bet on the sportsbook. Zubac for under 10.5 points has about a 53% chance to hit according to the sportsbooks and the projection data. I'm saying I don't know if I agree with that, just simply given the fact that his per 36 production would suggest he should get 15 points in this game, and tack on the fact that it's going to be an easy matchup. That is something I'm interested in. Now we are seeing that maybe the better bet for him again would be the points, rebounds, and assists. And for what it's worth, guys, again, the points prop at 10.5, his points and assist prop at 10.5. So to me, that's seemingly a slight edge that we might have where we could just bet him to get the over points and then also just hoping that we get lucky for him to get an assist. We're not expecting that to happen, but that is something certainly within the realm of possibilities. But all in all, I still think that this is going to be a good one, assuming that he gets more minutes there. And then we go ahead and switch up and get into the Dallas side of it. It is kind of intriguing here. I actually don't mind maybe a slight game stack here. Zubac for his over as well. I already mentioned that, but we do see Kyrie Irving for rebounds and assists, as well as Luka Doncic for over rebounds and assists. Now, the worry is that the projections are lower, okay? But I also don't mind Grant Williams for over 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Those are the three players that for Dallas are going to be the most consistent producers. More difficult matchup, maybe. It's a different team than at the start of the season. So for Luka at his rebounds and assists, that is seemingly a very high number, right? Like 17.5. When we look at it on the season, basically averaging that as well. So this is very much a bet on James Harden playing poor defense and him getting the matchup with James Harden. Same thing with Kyrie though, like James Harden or Russell Westbrook defense. Yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm like, yeah, it probably just makes for a better stack in this game staying close and just being kind of a weird game. Yeah, that feels a little bit too thin. Let's take a peek at Grant Williams. And so Grant Williams, I'm actually curious. I want to take a peek at the projected starting lineup. So Lively is projected to play. I would almost imagine if Lively sits, we might just see Grant Williams as the starting center there. That'd be interesting. But yeah, Grant Williams at 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He is someone on the season averaging more than that. And so that's why I don't mind it here. I believe he got into foul trouble in that last game because he just randomly didn't get as many minutes as he typically would be for fouls. That wasn't a game that I followed closely for sure, but not the best night shooting for him. Not someone that's going to get high shot attempts, don't get me wrong, but he only had 7 in that game, and I think that's partially due to his minutes. So yeah, all in all, I would say Grant Williams at 16.5 is seemingly a good one there. And so let's go ahead and move on into the next game. We got 2 left here. Lakers versus Suns, 3.5 point spread, 220, almost 225 for the over and under there. Late night game. We are seeing the biggest issue. Devin Booker still out. Bradley Beal, a game time decision. Looking at the Lakers, we do have Anthony Davis, game time decision. We do have Jackson Hayes, game time decision. And then they are still without Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent. Take a peek at the projected starting lineup. Davis is currently very much a game time decision. But we see that we got Bradley Beal there. That's currently a game time decision expected to play. I'm not sure if we're going to get any props for this game just yet because of the uncertainty somewhat. Oh, and we are for Phoenix. I guess that's because Beal is expected to play. And so Grayson Allen under points, rebounds, and assists. That is something I would agree with. Like we got to look at like kind of the per 36 production with Beal on the court, which is, I don't really like looking at that too much. And oh man, no, that is such a small sample size. Such a small sample size. Not worth mentioning. There's like literally less than 20 minutes or 25 minutes for the top play. So just let's look at Bradley Beal. So last game, Bradley Beal played 23 minutes. That's all he played, 3 for 12. Terrible game for him. And then so Grayson Allen actually played pretty well again. Okay. 9 for 16, 8 for 13. He had to step up and play better, and that's exactly what happened. That's kind of Grayson Allen. It's like when you need to call on him, he's someone that can step up, but if you expect that in the long term, he's not the solution. This is really just a bet on Beal getting more minutes, and let's see what Grayson Allen is projected at 23. Okay. And again, guys, the projected minutes don't have anything to do with the projected data, but those two sources are pretty much saying the same thing, whereas the average sportsbook line is kind of saying, no, he's going to get those minutes. So tough to say for sure. I would say he probably will get those minutes. So I don't love that one, but like why wouldn't he? One, he gets a cold night shooting. We see another one would be Bradley Beal gets more minutes. Eric Gordon would be someone that, he's still going to get his minutes, probably would get more minutes if he doesn't have a cold night shooting. So it does seem like they just went with Grayson Allen a little bit more in that game. And then we look at Koji, only 18 minutes in that game. I don't know what happened there. He had been someone that had been playing a lot. They actually went with KBD a little bit more there in that game. He played 31 minutes. That seemed to be more of like a defensive thing. And so he is projected to start right now as well. So we'll have to see what happens there. KBD could be someone that we're looking at for like blocks and steals. But all in all, I guess I don't mind the Grayson Allen under prop, but man, I don't know if we want to touch that. Yusuf Nurk's definitely a little bit interesting because if AD sits, he would be someone that does get a better matchup in that game. And it's already not a terrible one. And he is someone that we saw him get heavy minutes in that last game. Now that game went to OT. We should mention that. But they haven't had too many close games thus far this season. In the games that have been close, we have seen 28, 28, 30, 28, and 38 minutes. So if he is getting 28 minutes or so, then to me, this line is too low, especially if AD is out. Like, again, I think this is a better individual bet on the sports books, but bet the over at 24.5 because if he does get 28 minutes, and then also if AD's out, that's going to help him get his over there. So not a bad one there. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the Lakers. So with the Lakers and not having the Anthony Davis news for sure, we're not going to get any props on him. So let's just take a peek at what the production would be like if Anthony Davis was off the court. So with AD off the court, LeBron averages 27.6 points, 8.6 rebounds. So already this one's kind of standing out to me if AD were to sit, and then 5.7 assists. So really all of them are seemingly pretty good props. I would say the points and rebounds would be the one I would want to go with the most there. And that's a bet where you could just, the bet really would be AD sitting. So I'm going to place this bet. I'm going to place LeBron for over points and rebounds, knowing I would be getting a huge edge if he does. After that's actually D'Angelo Russell, and he gets about 22.4 points per 36, 3.7 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. So again, like this would seemingly be a good over bet as well if AD were to sit. Cam Reddish gets a lot of run. Austin Reeves does as well. Now, Austin Reeves' production is seemingly the same. He does average a little bit more assists per game with Anthony Davis off the court, which is strange. I guess AD's more of a high usage kind of guy, so that somewhat does make sense. But all in all, I don't mind taking a risk on AD sitting and then going points and rebounds for LeBron, rebounds and assists for Russell. Then we could run it back with Yusuf Nurk because obviously he should be able to get a better matchup. Christian Wood is someone I expect to get like 20 to 30 minutes. It really depends on how he's playing. If Jackson Hayes sits and if Anthony Davis sits, I think that's just our expectation. Taurean Prince is someone that's probably going to get 30 minutes or so. Tough to love him tonight. But yeah, like I feel like we could make the bet that I mentioned there, just betting on Anthony Davis sitting. Obviously, if he doesn't sit, it's not. We saw that they're unfavorable bets then, but still they could hit. And then looking at the last game, the Thunder versus the Kings, a 231 over and under and a 2-point spread there. So looking at it, the Thunder are healthy. SGA is back. And then looking at the Kings, we still know that De'Aaron Fox is out in this game. So we should be getting props for both teams, which is good. And we are. And we are seeing that Chet Holmgren for over rebounds and assists is seemingly a good bet. SGA for over turnovers and also Jalen Williams for over turnovers are ones that are popping up. Dort for over points and rebounds. Interesting there. Let's actually just take a peek at this team as a whole. I'm very curious about this Chet Holmgren one because that to me does seem a little bit too low. I'm actually curious about the matchup here. So yeah, a pretty easy matchup there. He has been someone that has been getting a bunch of minutes. And yeah, that seems too low to me. Against Cleveland, you kind of expect him to struggle rebounds wise. He only had 7 in that game. Makes sense. 2 bigs there. But in an easy matchup against the Kings, yeah, I'm going to write this one down. I feel like that is a good one. And guys, I'm not a big fan on the turnover props that we get on a nightly basis, but let's just take a peek at them. So SGA obviously has a huge usage rate. One of the biggest ones in the league. And so we see his turnovers 3, 2, 2, 5, 0. but only 28 minutes, 5-1. So yeah, I mean, I get why it's popping up as a decent one. 53% likely to hit. I don't know. I just don't like those. And then Jalen Williams at 1.5. He has been playing some unimpressive basketball this season. And the likelihood of him getting one turnover is definitely there. Yeah, I don't mind that one for Jalen Williams a little bit. I kind of like that one a little bit more. Who would benefit? I'm curious if we're getting any like Kings steals props like that could correlate there. Steals or blocks, I guess. Probably steals is what we would want to look at. We're not getting any of those. Suck. But yeah, looking at the Kings, we got Keegan Murray for over 5.5, 4 rebounds. And he has been someone that has been a source of frustration, really for DFS and for props betting, all that stuff. Keegan Murray finally had himself, and I just don't even want to say it, a decent game. And look at it. It was terrible. 1 for 6 from 3, right? Not good. 2 for 6, 1 for 8, 0 for 7. He has not been shooting the basketball well with De'Aaron Fox off the court, which is something you would have expected would occur. And because of that, he hasn't exactly been getting as many minutes as you would expect as well. All it takes is for him to have one good night shooting, and I think he's going to stuff the stat sheet. Now, at 5.5 rebounds, I am perfectly happy to bet the over there. That is something that probably will get bumped. The issue with Keegan Murray is that he's been bad, right? Like he just hasn't shot the basketball well. And with the Kings, where they have some depth, you're just not going to get minutes when that occurs. Now, he is projected to get 33 minutes. If that occurs, then yes, I do think he's going to get over 5.5 rebounds. I'm fine with that one. We see Sabonis for rebounds and assists. Isn't that a crazy number? 20.5 for that. Like what? And we also are seeing that as under for rebounds is being favored. Crazy there as well. So I want to just take a peek at Sabonis because he is someone that hasn't exactly stepped up as much as you would have thought he would have with Fox off the court. Rebounds and assists, that one seems a little bit too high to me. I don't know about you guys, so I'm probably staying away from that. Are we getting a points prop for him? Because I feel like Sabonis should be able to have a good day points wise. 20 points. That's probably right. All right. Yeah, the Kings props feel correct. I don't know. Like I expect Keegan Murray to have a better night shooting. Harrison Barnes is too inconsistent to trust. Kevin Huerter, let's take a peek at that one, actually. Points, rebounds, and assists at 21.5. So Huerter is someone that I don't know what's going on with his minutes. That game was a blowout. That game was a blowout. Close game 27, close game 37, only 16. But with Fox off the court, he is someone that you would expect to get more minutes. And so this is seemingly going to be one of those bets that would be a bet on the minutes being there. He's a good shooter. And honestly, if he does get the minutes, like there's a good chance he gets most of his production just points wise, like 15 points or so, adds on 5 rebounds or 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Like he's right there. And so not a bad one. And the per 36 production would back that up, but does feel slightly too thin. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the data on my end like I like to do at the end of the video, seeing if we're getting any better bets. We're not getting any fantasy score props just yet, which is unfortunate. I like to include those because as you guys have seen over the past 2 slates, the best props we have had, Brandon Miller, Gafford under fantasy score 2 nights ago, and then Trae Young and Jalen Suggs over fantasy score were the 2 best ones yesterday. And then actually Miles Turner popped in there for over fantasy score when that was made available. That was the 3rd best one. So that is seemingly our biggest edge. And it sucks that we're not getting that just yet. And so while I'm refreshing that data, let's just take a quick peek at some college basketball props that we are getting. And right now we aren't getting any like great EV props at all. The lines are matching up with Underdog. The lines are matching up with what we have for PrizePicks. So not a seemingly big edge there. A bunch of that are 53% likely to hit. If you want to roll with those, by all means, go for it. If not, that's fine. Let's take a peek at Underdog there, though. Underdog is going to be the same situation. So we'll take a peek at NHL real quick. And so looking at NHL, we are getting a couple of good ones. We have 3 really good EV bets, and I'm kind of interested in the block shots one at 1.5. We don't see those pop up typically too much. And so that's kind of a fun one, if you will. But yeah, 3 that are 54% likely to hit. Very good EV there. If you guys want to roll with those, by all means, let's go for it. And then 2 just kind of interesting ones where the projection data is suggesting the over. Yes, only a 52% chance for this one hit, only a 53% chance for that one to hit. I have noticed that when the projection data is that much higher, that these have been ones that eventually will get bumped. I don't know if there's much juice to that. It is still early on in the season, but something I just thought was noteworthy. Then we just take a quick peek at any discrepancies right now. Not really FIFA and whatnot. Nothing too much there. So lastly, let's take a peek at college football because that's going on tonight. And I'm just going to sort by time. We got a lot of props going in there. So just for today's slate is what I'm going with there. We are seemingly getting 2 good ones. Burns for under his receiving yards at 41.5. That's a good one. And then Maryland for under his receiving yards at 34.5. If you guys have played any college basketball props or college football props, you know that it is so hit or miss. And so yeah, I probably am going to roll with the EV bet slip that we have on the slate, and we'll just kind of see how that goes. But let's go ahead and take a peek at the basketball ones now that it's refreshed. And so right now, looking at the bets that we have, Porzingis for under rebounds and assists. We're still getting that at 10.5. We can see Underdog has bumped that down. Probably agree with that. We can see Marcus Smart at under rebounds and assists at 10.5. That's seemingly a good one. Tyus Jones for under points at 9.5. So guys, I'm going to run out again like 2 bet slips of the day. This is currently the best one just based off of the EV that we have out there. I think that these 3 specifically are the best ones right now, all with a 54% likelihood to hit. But if you look at on Underdog, these have all been dropped down. Tough to say that those are going to be there. Same thing with these other ones that are all very good EV bets as well. That is my concern, is that, typically speaking, guys, these are all ones that are pushed by the time the video is uploaded. Okay, that's kind of the point of having the tool available, is that, sometimes we can gain a big edge. But again, I think the biggest reason, the point of emphasis for the tool, is the fantasy score props that are available throughout the day, just not yet. So I'm going to show you guys the other prop bets that I like that hopefully won't get bumped, or that won't get bumped until later on in the day. These are ones that are going to be more available, but obviously, and it's the tough part about giving content, NBA content, props content, is that these are a little bit less desirable than the ones I'm showing you right now, but they are ones that are probably going to be available. So, it's kind of a balancing act. So again, to be clear, I think that these are all bets that should be available by the time most of you guys get there. So I do like this. PJ Washington, just again, with Terry Rozier out, does it have a high usage rate? Shot the ball poorly last game, but you expect him to be able to get there. Zubac as well, like this one at his points and rebounds is still set at 19.5. So we are seemingly still getting an edge there by having the exact same line. Is he likely to get an assist? No, but at the same time, let's take advantage of that while it's there. Kyle Kuzma over 6.5 rebounds. Gafford, if he struggles or doesn't get minutes in this game, Kuzma should be running out the center, and then that's seemingly going to be a good matchup. And then Chet Holmgren for over, this is supposed to be rebounds and assists, apologies. So here's the updated version. Like, these are all prop bets out of a 53% likelihood. But yeah, Chet Holmgren for over 9.5 rebounds and assists, seemingly a good matchup against the Kings. That is going to be all for this video. If you guys want access to the tools that you saw available in this video, click the link here in the description below. 95sports.com is available for just $10 a month. Give a like and subscribe to the channel. That's going to be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.